Well, hey there. I'm Pastor Cody,
And I'm Pastor Matt.
and we are here on this faithful Thursday to converse.
To have ourselves a conversation.
We're going to do one of those things for sure. So this week, man, what?
As soon as you said that, I was triggered. You know the thing? We just brought it right back into this week.
Yeah, we can't stop.
Yeah.
Can't stop, and we will not stop.
Yeah, that's all right.
But we're going to take it easy on you this week because we went super long last week.
Yeah, we
so
did. It was fun, though.
It was fun. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah.
There he is.
Jeez, that was quick.
Man, we haven't even made it like 2 minutes yet.
Well, we had the Super Bowl yesterday. I didn't even talk about that in the morning service because that's how much I cared about it.
Yeah.
But I still ended up watching it. It was good.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was great. It was a good game.
Nice.
It's always good when they're, when it works, when two competitive teams end up in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's true.
I felt like it was a pretty good game, neck and neck, and the better team won. That's how I felt.
I mean, that's usually how it goes, right?
Yeah. Well, not always.
Not always.
You got referees, right?
Yeah.
And even like they had this one, the Browns scored a touchdown off this the guy totally face masked his defender.
Ooh.
And they didn't even catch it. I'm like, man, all these cameras. But right after it happened and it was like, oh yeah, this is good, touchdown. It's like then the replay started of him just ripping this guy's face mask.
Ripping face.
Yeah, I felt like it was a good game though. In the halftime show, all the boomers were like, I can't believe this. All the millennials were like, yes. Every word of Slim Shady, man. It was awesome.
That is awesome.
Own the moment. But yeah, it was good. We fast forwarded some of it just for,
just for the
because
children.
my kids were in there.
Yeah.
And then my wife said, you would have fast forwarded this if if they weren't in here too, right? And I'm like, no. No, I mean, yes. Yes.
No means yes.
But it's hard to explain the level of, it's more about the song. When 50 Cent, I didn't even know if 50 Cent was coming out on that. And he just showed up. I was like, what? This is crazy, but that's right in my, right in my wheelhouse of what I liked and consumed as a teenager.
As a young debaucherous
adult. Man. Sneaking CD. I would copy CDs and give them to other kids.
I was pirating music before I was a high school graduate.
Back, man. When it was...
I killed my mom's computer with LimeWire, downloading MP3s.
Straight up. It wasn't LimeWire. Then it was probably, the Napster or something like that. Yeah.
I had Napster after they went legit. Yeah? Yeah. It was a thing. And then they got bought out by Rhapsody. And then they changed back to Napster. And my grandparents still use Napster. So that's pretty much
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But no, it was good, man. I was like, yeah, this is super chill. I was digging it.
Super chill.
Yeah, I was digging it. But
yeah.
Anyway.
I told my wife last night, I was like, I feel like really the only reason that I would watch the Super Bowl is if it's an interesting halftime show. But I was like, literally, I just feel like the halftime shows usually suck, which I feel like is just inexcusable for the amount of money that they spend on these things.
I mean, I'm fairly...
It's either a bad pick, like that year they had the Who. Yeah. Exactly. Who?
Yeah, but I think that...
Mr. Ellison, if you're watching this, you probably listen to them, and I'm sorry.
I was about to say, there's a group of people out there that tracked with it. You know what I mean?
Right, but out of all of the NFL's audience, they were like, man, you know what really resonates across all generations with our audience? The Who. Or when they had... Well, they had that guy. Wasn't The Weeknd last year? That guy. Yeah, I saw a bunch of.
But I think he was huge.
He was a big deal.
I just don't know it's modern day hip hop.
Yeah, really he's not like hip hop. He's more of I guess pop would be.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
I don't even know.
Just like what you would hear on the radio. Sometimes I wonder the stuff that I hear on the radio. I'm like, does anybody actually listen to this for real? Unless you're listening to the radio, do you actually hear this stuff?
I would assume
anybody like this.
They wouldn't be on the radio if they weren't hitting it in
That's my assumption
the
too.
Billboard or whatever.
But I just feel like at the same time it's like a conspiracy where you sell your soul and you're guaranteed to get radio plays or something.
Dude.
Sell your soul to one of the gods of the nations.
Like
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about all that stuff. I think that record labels I think it's a proven fact at this point that they're dirty and they do bad things
for sure.
and they pay people off. So I mean, I think that there's a part of that that goes on. But other than that, I think that there's regardless of the systems and constructs, it's like America. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
regardless of the fact that, there are people gaming the system and taking advantage, old Pelosi's out there with their, $20,000 refrigerator.
With
Okay.
her ice cream.
Here's my Halo Top ice creams.
Well, I mean, of course there are going to be people gaming the system because they know,
Of course.
what businesses are about to get, multi-million, billion-dollar contracts. So they just can't help
That's
themselves.
a crime that we call insider trading.
Right. Right. But I think that, overall we could agree that America's a pretty good construct. We're going to dig it. So
Yeah.
there are artists that come out and it's like, man, that's amazing music.
Right.
In spite of the fact that,
Right.
they're probably, getting taken advantage of by the label.
6 Ways to Sunday. Yeah, the record label always makes out.
Yeah.
More than the artist. But I think for me, it's not necessarily the music. It's just like the show. Like, I think that's the biggest part of it is not just so much the music performance, but the show.
Other than
And
what
if
we
the
fast
show-
forwarded a part of it, like I felt like the show was like pretty
well put
it was
together.
pretty legit.
All I saw, like all my only experience of it thus far, is like I've seen multiple memes of like 50 Cent hanging upside down. And I was like, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, that was the part that we ended up fast forwarding.
What is his name with inflation now? I mean, is he like $1.50? Is that his new name?
That's hilarious.
Or Tree Fitty?
That was a good one. Did you just come up with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. What's 50? That's funny. Let's do the math right now. No. Oh, that was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was I felt like it was very creative, and it was like Dre was like producing. You had this like massive mixer up there.
I did hear about that. That's
oh,
pretty cool.
Man, I was like, I wonder if it's actually
Were you able to
working.
see what kind of mixer it was?
No, there was.
Was it even a real mixer?
I don't think so. My gut is saying no, but I'd like to think that some part of it was real, just for for sake of the being genuine and the artistry. I felt like that was a big part of it. It was like they were trying to show the artistry of it, and I felt like that landed.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. All right, so this week we are talking about Habakkuk. It actually blends chapters 1 and 2. You start in chapter 1, you end in chapter 2. And so this is our second week.
Yeah.
Second week,
Second
preaching
week.
about this joint, talking about this joint, all the joints.
All the joints,
That's
the halftime.
Yeah, that's for my boy Snoop, if you're watching, joints.
Yeah.
Man, this week, and I was listening to your message because I wasn't upstairs, but it just, to me, the overall vibe that I got from it as I'm thinking about it is kind of, really just, it seemed like the prophet was kind of gaining perspective towards the latter end of your message there, or rather the text that you were going through. But he's just, he's complaining, he's whining, he's going to God on behalf of the people, and God's like, listen, there's some things you don't know, friend.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a common theme in, I guess really scripture in general, but the minor prophets. It seems like Nahum is a similar vibe, and then you think about like Hosea, his situation. It's almost like the
weird.
Lord is like, right? He's like, hey, let me teach you something that you're apparently not aware of in a weird way.
In a weird way.
Yeah, but I feel like that's kind of where
Just
what
just when people like try to use the Bible as like a book of like fairy tales with like good maxim and proverbs,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, what about that story? We're going to do that.
Right, exactly.
Like, just when they're like, yeah, that doesn't exist, or yeah, it's that totally blows your narrative out, but
Yeah.
anyway.
What I was thinking of as I was listening, I was like, that's because really, like, I'm in a bunch of Facebook. I pretty much, all of you who see me on Facebook, like, I'm there for the laughs. If it's not funny, I'm not going to interact with it.
Same.
Don't care about your food. Sorry. But I feel like I post things in an obligatory fashion sometimes because I'm like, I am here. Like, we went to the Capitol Grill on Friday. I was like, I probably should just post a picture of the food. I guess it's like my life. I should do this, which
It's that tension of like, I don't think either of us want to do it at
I
all.
don't like it, but at the same time, like, I have social media for the meme groups that I'm in. And like every niche that I like I'm in a bunch of Marvel meme groups, a bunch of Star Wars meme groups, and everything else that I like there's a meme group for.
That's
and
awesome.
so that's what I'm there for. And it's funny, but all of the groups, there's like this riff, like they're always dominated by these atheistic or humanistic people, and they always, there's always comments like or memes that are against scripture or whatever, and it's like religion is a crutch for weak-minded people, and I'm like, you don't understand like the message of scripture and and the tenets of Christianity.
Right.
And, that came to a boil, I feel like, in your message when you were like, hey, the message of the gospel is, it's not a feel-good thing. It's take up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
It's in this world you will endure persecution. Like, that's not a feel-good, help you get through your day kind of thing, holistically.
Yeah.
Well, it is holistically that.
Yeah.
But the parts of it that make it that are not, like, the feel-good stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very backwards, not normal way of perspective.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I think it's the answer, to a lot of those things.
Oh, for sure.
Where folks just okay, and it's not like we're preaching this like masochistic, you need to be going through pain right now. That's not necessarily the message.
If
right?
you don't have a whip at home and you're giving yourself lashes every night, you're not doing it right.
You ain't a Christian. You ain't got what I got, friend. If you ain't got scars. No, it's not it at all. It's the fact that look, it's reality.
Yeah,
bad things happen, reversal happens, and the fact that it's not just an explanation for it, it is it's in the middle of it. The Lord is saying to the prophet, I more than know what you're saying. I'm
right 10 times over.
Yeah, I'm causing some of it, right, and I don't think it's. And that's kind of the tension that I was trying to handle that yesterday, and I don't know that I got my point across.
I feel like you did, and but I just the thing for me, the thing, but the thing for me, I guess, is that Marduk is a thing, and we could talk about him.
Yeah.
Love that. Gosh, where was I going? I totally lost my train of thought.
Because I'm being dumb over here.
Yeah, but just this concept, right? Like what Christianity, or I hate, the religion label, right? But that's just kind of what it is. It's a belief system, or a relationship rather. It's all of these things. But the core purpose is not like, oh, I need something to make me feel good so I can make it through this mess of life and have an escape from reality. Like we're not trying to produce. And Scripture, rather, is not trying to produce an escape of reality. It's trying to give us a lens into a transcendent reality. What does reality actually look like? And the conversation that's back and forth between Habakkuk and the Lord is like, hey, this is actually like you have a way that you were looking at what's happening, and I have a way of looking at what's happening. And what you need to do is look at it my way. Yeah. And that's what both of them are saying, really.
Yeah.
But
well, I think Habakkuk is like, and that's what I love about this exchange, is I don't feel like he's pressuring God into anything. He's just pouring out his heart.
He is, yeah.
He's just saying, look, from my perspective, they're really rotten people, and we're better than them. And so, like, from that perspective, it hovers right around, the tail end of chapter 1, where he kind of says, like, clearly there's people in Jerusalem that are better than these knuckleheads. Yeah. And I would agree with that statement, right? Everyone would logically agree with that statement. Yeah. But the problem with that statement is it's also loaded with pride. And I'm not saying just on Habakkuk's end, and maybe Habakkuk was the most humble dude we would have ever met. I'm not trying to project pride onto him, but I'm projecting pride onto their situation. Because clearly...
his name in Hebrew means pride, right?
Oh, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I was about to say... I'm like,
I just wanted to see if you would just roll with that if I said
it. That's funny. But I think that like the crux of the matter is that he's answering for a people, and the Lord says, look, overall, there, and it's in agreement, Judah is wicked. Yeah. Overall, you've done bad things, and you had access to me. You had access to my goodness, to my rule, my geographical location, the temple, like
Yeah.
you had access to everything. And so we're not kidding ourselves when we play the comparison game, because the Lord, and I think this is where I would have a tendency to go more reform towards this. And I think it's easier, right? It's easier just to say, here's the rubber stamp, the Lord controls everything, and he knows, and he pulls those cords. And I think that there's some credence to that in the sense that he talks about an appointed time. It's just not time yet. You live by faith. It's just not time yet. Like, you get that sense too.
Yeah.
But to me, it's the tension of both. The Lord is both in Habakkuk's life, in his situation, in his pain, in his moment, but he's also in his timeline.
Right.
That really isn't a timeline. That's like, this is what's happening and I'm in control of it. So I think it's important for us to look at that and see that we have to be able to respond to suffering, and not just suffering like bad things happening, but like things just not going our way. Why is, and I think that this is probably the most applicable part of that of that book for us in our culture. It's like, why is that guy getting it and I'm not?
Yeah. Why is this party winning elections and mine is not?
Yeah. And you could fill in the blank there with anything, whatever your struggle is. We're a covetous people, and we're still a covetous people. And so in that moment, it's like you see the Lord saying to him, what you're concerned about, you really shouldn't be concerned about it. And then it's because whenever we're sitting in that seat, right? And I think about Psalm 1, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. His delight is in the law of the Lord. And so whenever the tables turn and we're observing things that are happening in this state of exile, there you go, there's your book. But when we're observing this situation from the perspective of a winning and losing, we're in the wrong. We're not comparing apples with apples. The Lord is saying, I'm concerned, but I'm not concerned. Judah made their bed hard. This purification process, captivity, that all of these things, exile, once again, it's all going to happen. But essentially, according to my timeline, and I'm going to work all these things for my good. And so Habakkuk had to reach that point where he's like, yeah, the Lord's got this. And he does, right? But before he gets there, the Lord has to show him. And so the Lord gives him some practical points, and I think the things that I more or less passed over yesterday, and I just shot to the end because it was just like I ran out of time, and I had a shorter amount of time yesterday because worship went long, and I was okay with that because it was good. But he says observe things, write them down. Like what is about to happen is something that you can learn something from, and so. What does it look like to be faithful in his day and age and in our day and age? It looks very similar. He was a watchman on the wall. He was waiting for the Lord's response. And then when the Lord responded, he was saying, look, take some notes, So I think it was a really healthy exchange for me to see that literally in that horrible, crazy situation that he was in, the Lord's answer was live by faith. And if we fast forward to...
but the righteous one will live by his faith.
Yeah.
Where did Paul get his theology from?
That's right. The Old Testament.
Right.
100%. So there's nothing new. Just, different circumstances. And I would say it was pretty crazy back then. And the things that they would see and the boundaries, right, with the geographical locations and the gods of this nations today, it's a lot more blurry in the sense that, the Lord is reclaiming every territory. He's drawing every tribe and tongue back to himself. And so, the lines have been completely blurred so to speak, to say that, nothing is off limits. The Lord will redeem anything and everything. I'm not willing that any should perish, but that all. Back then it was those guys over there, they're horrible. And now in a new covenant era, the Lord's saving.
Fair game.
Yeah, he's saving people from everywhere. And so it puts things, my point is it's even more clear today than it was back then. It's become more transparent. The veil of the temple is rent. We have a clear directive of reaching the nations. And so Marduk has no power. Marduk's perspective of consuming and growing and conquering. It's over. It's done. The cat's out of the bag. Our God wins. Our God conquers death. Death's not the end for us. Oh, death, where's thy sting? Oh, grave, where's thy victory? Now do you see the way that this worldview materializes for us? And that's where we're at. That's this place in time. And so I'm just trying to drag Christians out of the past and say, look at the present. Look at what living by faith actually looks like. It looks like this, So anyway, that's what this book is doing in my own heart and in my own life and in my own exchanges with the Almighty. But anyway,
yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. And I was thinking about this too, this situation, and then we talked this morning about just Cain, right? The idea that he could not be dissuaded to sin,
it's
even
so
though
good.
God Himself.
Don't give the farm away because you're going to preach it, right?
I think so. Yeah. Spoiler alert. Genesis 4, I think, is where I'm going to preach from. But this idea, we're always like, well, if God wanted this, why doesn't He just say it? Or if He, why doesn't He just do this? And it's like, and I think His response would be, well, like, in situations like this in Habakkuk, where Habakkuk's like complaining, and he's like, hey, just like you said, like, you have the temple. I gave you a way to get divine information. Like, you have an avenue to do that. I've given you an audience with me. Yeah. Like, and then Cain, like, hey, this is the angel of the Lord standing next to you, telling you not to do something, and you cannot get it right.
No.
Like, God's presence, like, if He were to physically call out to you from the sky, guess what? If your heart's not right, it's not going to make a difference in what you do and how you respond. You're still going to screw up.
Yep.
And so, it's
but we think.
But we think
we're different. And there's an aspect of us that, like, just shall live by faith. That was different for Habakkuk. He's having a conversation with him right now. We have a conversation with God this morning.
Right. Exactly.
It's not different.
Yeah.
We're still fallen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's accessibility's never been an issue. Right. It's what we do with that accessibility that is crap. That was going to be so good, and I just lost that phrase mid thought. With great power comes great responsibility. No, but
just give them the thought.
Yeah,
Don't worry about
the alliteration. But what we do with that accessibility dictates the outcome, not just having the accessibility.
Right.
But just such a good thought. And I think he'll realize that as the book goes on is my prediction.
Yeah,
as if I haven't read the book a couple times before. No biggie. But it's just, I don't know, it's just a neat concept, neat conversation. He talks about Marduk and the gods of the nations, which is, par for the course for the Old Testament prophets. One of the things that I thought was interesting, and it was thought-provoking to me, and if you haven't listened to the message, it's linked in the description there, but you were like, we have these expectations that we bring to the table about who God is and what He should do and what He should be, and we look at that through the lens of like the government, like our view of the government almost is how we feel like He should, like, where's my stimmy at, Lord?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what, you own everything. Like, why can't you do X, Y, Z with all that money? Why don't you reappropriate some funds this way? Or why don't you respond to this evil nation this way? And the reality is I sat down, or I stood up rather, because I was just I was upstairs here. But I was thinking about it and I was like, like what? Like, we bring a lot of assumptions to the table when we come to the table and we think about who God is and what He should be. We bring a lot of assumptions, and if we're honest with ourselves, not all of them are scriptural. God has given us revelation, and we have to our expectations of who He is and what He is going to do has to be based on that. And if it's not, then we're going to be disappointed, and we're going to have bad perspective, and we're going to be in a position where we're like, hey, what's up? Like, why are things the way that they are?
Yeah.
And God's like, well, you could have some better perspective about that if you just took advantage of, what was in front of you. Mm-hmm. It's a way to do it.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that our end goal, right, whatever that is, for Habakkuk, maybe it was reestablishing what Josiah had done, and it's like, man, his son really missed the mark, and now his son is taken over, and what a mess. Right. And now Babylon's going to come in and change his name, and he was probably more concerned with the location. Well, that's not, the Lord was obviously worried about something greater, an appointed time that was going to carry more weight than just the place of Bethlehem.
Yeah.
So it's a prime example of what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think something that's glaring to me as you read the prophets and you read really not just the 12, but the couple major ones as well, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and so forth, and so forth, if in case I missed one. But what's glaring is that God always
Like
in the
a mirror glaring.
right, the thing. What is at the forefront of his mind is Gentile inclusion, is, Abraham's, Genesis chapter 12, Abraham's going to be a blessing to the nations.
Yeah.
He's going to be a vehicle to deliver the Eden blessing back to the nations. That's like the whole purpose of Abraham and his descendants. And the Israelites just never...
They're like, we're not sharing.
It's never on their mind. And I think that's where
No.
this pride piece comes into play.
Yeah.
Like, we're God's chosen covenant people. He doesn't have Yahweh of Israel is just that. He's the God of the universe that is the patron deity of Israel. Yeah. We don't have a Marduk that answers to some higher being, though in the Mesopotamian pantheon, Marduk was kind of at the top there. But it was like
He was the dude.
Yeah, he was the guy. He killed Tiamat, the celestial.
Yep.
I mean, sea monster. If you watched Eternals, you'd get that. But
What a great, I liked it.
It was really good.
I'm gonna watch it again.
yeah, just a lot to ponder from that film. It was pretty good.
You said there's a new Lord of the Rings coming out?
I've actually never seen or read Lord of the Rings. I know. I'm terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, I hear really good things about it. I just never indulged. I'd like to though.
Yeah.
I tried to tell my wife we should watch all of those, and she hasn't really expressed any interest in it.
She's not. No.
And I just, I don't want to sit there and watch it by myself. She'll be like, "Yeah, I'll watch it," and then I'll look over. I'll be watching it, and she'll just be like,
On her phone.
"Yeah."
No, that's
on TikTok.
put them all to bed and just go
Yeah.
watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a
so,
waste of time
like
trying
and
to
comment
get
if you
one.
think I should watch Lord of the Rings. But it's funny to see that, like, time and time again, minor prophets, major prophets, like Gentile inclusion, bringing the nations back in and reclaiming them. Like in God's dialogue, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's what he wants, but it never seems to, and this is just my perception, maybe I'm wrong. But it just never seems to be really on anybody's brain in the biblical narrative from an Israelite perspective.
Yeah. And I think
Like it's literally their purpose, but
Yeah.
they're not really. And I think maybe part of it, now that I'm thinking about, I'm just thinking out loud here. We're having a conversation.
well, just to interject, don't lose where you're at, right? You got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just another minor prophet and once again, I could be wrong, but it's just as you're talking, kind of something that would support that is the fact that we have another minor prophet, Jonah, that is close to contemporary.
Yeah.
Right. And that whole thing was about how he didn't want to give the message.
Right, he
Because
did
he
not want to
didn't
give
want to
it.
see the Assyrians turn.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's literally a part of the makeup of the 12 showing that the Lord was in the business of saving them
Yeah.
and using them as a part of his plan. And the Jews were like, nah,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's right there.
Yeah. It's true. It is there. And maybe, I don't want to throw too much shade and sound like I'm like an anti-Zionist or something.
Like a gourd.
Yeah. Right. Nice.
Sorry.
Love it.
Ba-dum-bum.
But if you think about it, like part of the Sinai covenant, right? Their status as a nation, they were supposed to show Yahweh's glory to the nations and his reputation. That was the whole point of the Exodus, right? That the final hardenings of Pharaoh's heart, like it's really like this is a showdown. Everybody around knew that like Yahweh of Israel just crushed all the whole pantheon of Egypt. And that's a big deal. Like his glory is what mattered. And so maybe in their mind, just being the, maybe pursuing that the only way they knew how through strength and might and being like the top dog nation. You think about David, his legacy, the giant slayer, the guy who, was just
It's the whole theme.
the guy who couldn't build a temple because he was somebody who had shed
Bloody
a lot
hands.
of blood. Yeah, dirty hands. So I don't know. It's just a thought. I feel like it's never really like it's on God's mind.
I think you should continue on that like Cain thought with that too, because it's like it's a picture of obviously the exile theme, right, that you're continuing to study and read about, but this would support, I think, more of the Calvinist perspective of the inability piece.
Yeah, the
Right.
fact that he just was unable to
He
get
was
it
just
together.
unable.
Yeah, totally depraved.
Yeah, making his own version of Eden, and so I think that there's merit to that, but there's also balance to that.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's definitely a connection because I don't know that he ever became regenerate. I don't think so.
I mean, no, I don't think so. Is my thought.
I mean, it's
Sorry,
the one,
pal. Atonement's limited. Come back later. We might have more.
But I think it's, the perspective of Scripture is that, his heart was hard.
Yeah.
And Abel was the one who.
And God's like, don't you see, like, sin is crouching at the door.
Exactly.
And its desire is for you, and you must master it.
And it's like venom.
And he's like,
it just totally overtakes him. Right.
Oh, that's a good illustration.
But in that, right, and there's clearly
terrible movie, but good illustration.
There's clearly the dark side, how that plays out. And so anyway, I think that these decisions that we make play in, the path that we take play in, but ultimately humility. He became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Wherefore God also hath highly exalted him and given him that name. Even within the Godhead, there's a picture of humility and grace. Even within himself, I receive it from my Father. It's this beautiful picture that God was saying, okay, I'm going to have to, even in my sovereign being self of God, I'm going to have to portray this because you're unable to portray it.
Yeah.
And so, making the decisions along those lines to live by faith really puts us in a place where we can demonstrate that to the rest of the world, to actually be a witness to the nations,
right?
know? But anyway, it's some deep stuff.
Anyway, if you ever wonder what your purpose is, Genesis 12, blessing to the nations.
Hey, there you go.
There you go.
And to your
go
children's
reach your neighbor.
Children and children's children.
All them children's. All the generations.
As, the priesthood sing it, Carrie. Right now,
Carrie.
Hold a latte, sip it, and sing it.
Yes. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview. I think of what you talked about. It's really good. It's just a neat text to walk through.
Yeah. We'll see what happens next week.
Yeah.
This week.
Is there any thoughts you want to leave the people with prior to your message this week?
I don't know. Read ahead, finish the book, read it again if you've already read it.
Yeah, just read through that joint.
Continue to see what the Lord has that'll be revealed. If you have any thoughts, or we talked about this morning where I'm headed next.
Yeah,
but if
I know and you don't.
But if you have any input on a book that you think would be good or that we should cover, drop
which
it in
one
the
do you want him
comments.
to go through, and why is it Revelation? Drop your response in the comments. We're not brave enough for that. Well, he's probably brave enough for that.
No, I'm not. Not right now.
We'll put a sign out front, and everybody will come.
Oh my gosh! Year 10 of ministry. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna march through Revelation.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
We're gonna
We will
march right
eventually,
through
but
it. We're gonna arrive on a white horse.
We're gonna Mardu right through that thing.
We're gonna Mardu it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. What? Oh no, I'm thinking of Marmaduke, that dog. I was gonna make a joke, but it just didn't fit.
Oh, it's
anyway,
all good.
yeah. But
God bless you.
Yeah, God bless. Do less. Thanks for hanging out.
Love you.
Please like and share with your friends if you feel like this is a decent broadcast. If you don't like it and you think you'd embarrass us by sending it to somebody, please don't do so. But we hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
So we'll see you Sunday, and we will catch you right here at this table next week.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye now. Bye.